farm or our business, I usually say no, or the first thing I say when I read out the email to him is, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he says, oh, please just do it. And then when I agree to do it, which is what happened, when you sent this email, let me tell you the process. And when I agree to do it, he says, please don't sound like an angry Black woman when you get there. Then I say, I can't promise, but I'll try. And the reason is because, as one of the maybe 2 Black county farmers, our Auntie Tanya is the other. I know she probably gets this a lot, but I get, people saying, come and speak, because I get the impression most of the time that people just want to see that, oh, Montgomery County or Maryland isn't just a place where it's just farmers who look a certain way or who are of a certain gender work. So I get that, I like it, but what I don't like, what I see as a challenge for me personally is beyond the talk, then what? And that's really what I want to spend the next 10 minutes talking about, beyond the talk. Montgomery County is very peculiar. We lived in Howard County and farmed in Montgomery County until during the pandemic. But during the pandemic, we moved to Montgomery County and still farm in Montgomery County. But perhaps ourselves and Auntie Tanya are perhaps the few Black people who started in Montgomery County and who are still left there. As I said to an organization in DC yesterday, there seems to be a virus that we haven't found the cure for, that doesn't allow, and I'm not going to generalize and say farmers of color, no, because different colors have different issues. And we talk about Black farmers now. There seems to be that virus in Montgomery County that doesn't allow Black farmers to stay here and to thrive here. And this thing I'm saying might make people uncomfortable, but I think it's very important that we say these things. There are, I find it very discomforting that there are people who want to support all farmers who have never been to our farm or have never been to Auntie Tanya's farm. Why? If you can't solve a problem or or support a cause that you've never felt. I want to give very, very, very good shout out to Crossroads, because when we were at Crossroads not only came to our farm and supported our business with grants and help, but they also at some point, in fact, on 2 instances, brought us people to help farm labor. So my feedback, the first feedback I want to give is, if you want to support a business, whether that business is owned by a person of color or not, please try to go there, try to go to that business and let them talk about their problems on site. There's so many things that you can see when you meet us at the market or you meet us at the farm. So that is my number 1 rant. But in terms of doing business, the thing that has really helped us the most, especially at this time where prices are rising crazily, the thing that has really helped us is access to some markets that are very resistant to price increases. Because one of the things that we've had to do is to increase our retail price. I'm still waiting. I'm looking at Mana with side eye. Lauren, I'm saying maybe you help me tell Mana. I'm looking at them with side eye. I'm waiting for an email from Mana to say, we're going to add 25 cents or something to the wholesale prices so that we can help you cushion the effects. But one of the things that has helped us is having access to markets like the Silver Spring Farmers Market downtown and the DuPont Circle Farmers Market. Because these 2 markets, well, these are the 2 markets that we go to. These 2 markets are you have customers who are not really resistant to this $1.50 increases, because otherwise I don't know what we would have done. I don't know how we could have coped without customers who are willing to support. So, I think, I don't know any farmer that is not feeling the pinch of, it's costing us at least 40% more to fill up our tanks. And yesterday was payroll day in Dodo Farms. And I had to make a decision unilaterally, even after seeing all of our numbers and all of the flashing red signs, to add $1 an hour to the rates of our staff, because they are also taking they're also driving their cars and coming from far distances. And even though we don't know where we're going to recoup our money from, the cost of labor has already gone up for us, because if we lose them, then we're in trouble. So the big thing, yes, there is gas price hike, there is the cost of seeds, the cost of the seedlings that we're getting. Everything is almost 25 to 40% higher than the last season. But another thing that hasn't changed from last year to this year is the fact that access to LLCs is the biggest challenge that table crop farmers face. LLC, not the incorporation. And I've talked about this in one of the Maryland meetings before. Land, access to land. Many people who are here know we went to heaven and earth to look for land. And, you know, the experience is one that honestly still leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, because people want to give you, you know, land that they are tired of mowing. And then you show up there and you show up black, and they suddenly have a reason for their horses to use the land that was not in use before. But thankfully, we have a very gracious landlord who relocated her sheep and gave us that space. But I can't imagine how anyone who wants to do genuine, honest business is going to get access to land in Montgomery County. I just don't know how. And this is, I think, something that we need to figure out on a policy level. If somebody is holding on to 600 acres of land, heck, even 25 acres of land, and all they're doing is just wasting water by mowing it, why can't we give them some sort of rebate for them to lease this land out? I've also written something about this, and I've given it to the Office of Ag before, that Montgomery County should try to do an incubator program. I've been talking about incubator for about 3 years. Now I see that Prince George's County is now doing it. An incubator program where we can get experienced farmers to have some of this excess land, this 93,000 acres that we're reserving, have 5 acres out of it on a long-term lease, zero cost lease, in exchange for training young farmers. Because this sorts two issues out: use of land and food security. But it also helps us to tackle the issue of labor shortage, which is a huge deal for many farmers. I don't know how Antitania is dealing with labor issues, but for us, we've had to increase our pay twice between end of last season and now, because farms can just not compete with restaurants or any other industry that is, emerging from this pandemic. So we have to think about ways for us to address it. The last challenge that I think I want to talk about is access to capital. Access to capital is a thing. And, farming is the most capital intensive business I've ever done. And I've done a couple of businesses. And, if I remove my hat as a farm owner now and I wear my hat as an agricultural business lecturer, I honestly, I don't know how Dodo Farms is surviving, because everywhere you turn for capital, whether it's equity, whether it's grants or it's loans, there seems to be one barrier or the other. And it's very confusing to me that we have this challenge, because every day I'm on the USDA mailing list. Every day the USDA is asking municipalities and states to come get this grant, and then they're putting this very funny language there and say preference should be given to BIPOC and all of these things. And I am yet to see this trickle down to farmers like us, so I don't know what else we need to do. Even when it comes to accessing bank capital, Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit. I engaged them when we wanted to buy land. It was a roller coaster and a nightmare. And so I think we need to start to think about what are the ways in which we can support farmers, especially table crop farmers who try to do things in a way that is more, that provides healthier food for our community, because that makes it more expensive. Again, at this point, I want to say, a huge thank you to Mana and the Food Council for the capacity grants that we got last year. That honestly was very helpful, and some of the equipment that we've bought with that has been, life-saving. So if you're sitting out here thinking, well, I'm not in government, I'm not in the Food Council, I'm not in the Office of Ag, so how can I support? Well, that's where I want to end. Where you can support is to patronize local food producers. Your business, the revenue that we get from you is exactly what we need. And we're pouring every dollar right back into this business for the past 5 years. So if we don't sell, if we don't see you, if you don't come see us in Silver Spring on Saturday, or join our CSA when we eventually launch one back, we can't stay in business, and our business will die. And I'm hopeful that our business doesn't die. I'm hopeful that this passion that we have, that we're trying to put into this business, that it gets rewarded by your patronage. Thank you all so much for listening, and I look forward to listening to your questions.
Thank you so much, Tope, for that very heartfelt, just presentation. We definitely appreciate you sharing all that. Definitely eye-opening for us here. Can you share a little bit about Dodo Farms and where you are located, how long you all have been operating? Can you share a little bit about that, just some background on the farm?
Sure. So we are in Brookville, Maryland, which is about the east side of the county. And we've been farming there since 2018, April 2018. We farm certified naturally grown produce. And we sell, as I said, in Silver Spring on Saturday and in DuPont Circle, DC on Sundays.
Great. And you mentioned something about people coming out and to your farm and visiting, and that's a really great way to support. So do you have like open hours where the public can come, or is it by appointment only? How does it work?
So no, the people I meant are people who are making decisions, who are making decisions about business viability and growth and agriculture and policy in the county. That is important, that they have seen what they want to support. Yesterday, we had an organization, not from the county, but from DC. They came because they started to buy from us for some of their programs. And when they came to the farm yesterday, the first thing they did was send me an email and say, there's a fund that we would like you to apply for, because this would help fix some of the things that we've seen in the farm that you need to fix, but you can't afford. That is what happens when you don't rely on what you're seeing on the internet or in the market, but you're really there, to see for yourself.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Tope. Does anyone else have any questions?
Can I ask a quick question, Tope? I know, we have sort of, gone back and forth a little bit about how to actually, in reality, increase land access. And like you said, the talk is talk, and what's next? Like, what are our next steps? And I know we've talked a little bit. There's been this idea bandied about giving folks tax incentives to sort of cordon off some of their land. And you were saying, like, for an incubator farm, I love that idea. And just the idea that if you're teaching people how to farm, you're giving access to your land, and that there would be a zero cost lease. But then again, I'm always worried that the tax incentives are really providing tax incentives for wealthy landowners. So that to me is a little bit problematic. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, or if you could elaborate on how you see that system going forward.
Thank you very much. So I like, that part about the tax incentives going to wealthy landowners, but they are the ones who will need their land. So if they're not going to give it out of the goodness of their heart, why don't they give it out of, something that they're getting in return? Because how many people, I don't know about people sitting down here, but I talk about myself. I don't have 25 acres that somebody should be farming on that I'm wasting. I don't. I'm not sure if you did, you wouldn't have given it to us to use to farm. So the people who we really need to target are the people who are holding these 93,000 acres that perhaps are not being used. If you go to the USDA statistics website, you'd see that in Montgomery County, when you drill down to Montgomery County, the top 4 produce that were agricultural produce, land use, you don't even see nuts. Let me talk about vegetables. You don't even see eggs. What is there? Like is horses, is all of these things. Okay, I'm not faulting anybody who wants to raise horses, but we have to decide as a county, what do we really want to use our land for? Is it for horses or for, for people?
Great. We have a question in the chat from Wendy. She said,
Okay.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with the group today. Let's see. She's wondering about zoning / land use changes that might be in keeping with the AR protections. What size lots might be useful to a starting farmer, and is there a difference to you between renting and owning?
So I've always said that I'm not really, and okay, let me just be very upfront about this. I think whoever owns the land owns the economy. So I know that people are very protective about outrightly transferring ownership of their land outside of their families, which is why I stopped talking about selling or buying and I started talking about long-term leasing. Because when you have a long-term lease, there are things that you can do. For example, I had a meeting with the Montgomery Grain Bank to talk about solar. And I said, instead of us buying solar, could we lease the solar? And if we lease the solar, we need 20 years lease. There's no way I'm going to ask my landlord for a 20-year lease. It's not possible. What if she wants to sell her house? So these are some of the issues that make it, kind of like difficult. But I think that some of the county controlled land or some of the places where the land is in the family for extended periods of time, we can negotiate longer leases so that there's a win-win for everybody. There's a win for the farmer who has land to farm and plan and to grow wealth. And there is a win for the person who wants to keep that land in their family. So I think we have to be very, very, we have to understand what the real issues are. And the real issues is, the fear by people of losing access to something as precious as land.
Great. Let's see. And just a part 2 question that Wendy had was, she thought you mentioned an issue with LLC and wondering if you could speak more on that. And then Tom, you'll be next because I see your hand, Tom. So Tope, can you talk a little bit about the issue with LLC?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay, because I had to wind up my window because I'm in the parking lot in school. Yeah, so when I said LLC, I said LLC means to me, not what LLC means as for the in regulatory terms, it means land, labor, and capital. Those are the 3 factors of production, and those are the 3 issues that I have seen in the 5 years of owning, farmland here. And I want to say that, access to these 3 things for a person who looks like me brings an extra challenge. And, hopefully people would understand what this really means. It brings an extra challenge. There are things that, and I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but there are 100 no's I'm going to hear that many people on this call will never hear. and you wouldn't know because that's not your lived experience. And I just wish that would have a county that is a little bit more diverse.
Great. Tom, go ahead.
Well, Tope and I have talked about these issues in the past. And one of the things I kind of dream about is if, you know, in the agricultural reserve, we already have a 25-acre minimum zoning size for a lot. And it seems to me every 25-acre, you know, lot with a multi-million-dollar home on it could be a candidate for a 5 to 10-acre vegetable farm. But that's not happening in general. There are a few examples, but only a few. And I'm wondering if part of it is that, you know, that 25 acres with the multi-million-dollar home, you know, the landscaping company comes in and mows that place, and they've got everything is mulched, and the azaleas are beautiful in the spring. And I would say, you know, and this applies to me as well, our small-scale vegetable farming operations are not exactly, you know, pristine in terms of the landscape that is compatible with the multi-million-dollar house with the pool and the 3-acre, you know, horse paddock. And one of the reasons they're not compatible is because we don't have the resources. We don't have the time, the money, or the labor to completely mow and keep the fence rows looking perfect and have to make sure the high tunnel doesn't have any weeds around it. Our places sometimes will look a little weedy. We're not using Roundup. You know, the folks who are growing 1,000 acres in Poolesville of Roundup Ready soybeans, boy, those places look, you know, it's like amber waves of grain. It's a beautiful landscape to the folks in the Ag Reserve. And I think maybe folks in the Ag Reserve prefer that to something that looks a little more shabby. I think that one of the ways we could, if we could be thinking about how to make the small scale vegetable farm more financially viable, then small scale vegetable farmers would have the resources, or at least somewhat more resources, to make their places look in a way that's more compatible with the upscale appearance that now has become the norm in the agricultural reserve. It's not a shabby farming region anymore. It's an upscale, pristine, landscaped area, and I include in the landscape the 1,000 acres of soybeans or the 1,000 acres of corn. The roadside's all beautiful. So I think Farm to Food Bank was an enormous benefit, and hats off to everyone who participated in making that happen. That kind of assistance to make us somewhat financially more viable may allow us to be more compatible in terms of our appearance with the upscale, you know, 25-acre farmettes that are growing alpacas or horses or just grass.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. And you know, Tom's farm and Dodo farms are almost neighbors, and it's, you know, a fact. You almost have a nightmare on a landlord space when you know, you're close to, you know, agreeing that you can use the land, but the most you can do, the most beautiful you can do, is still not going to be good enough for the front of their places. So maybe in addition to, you know, some of these things that support us and help us ease some of the cost of doing business in the county, maybe we can even target people who have the land outside of the view of the road. Some people, when I drive from Walkville and I'm coming to East County, there are places that I know there's land that is not on the road that we could, you know, get to the back. Like a farmer could get on the road and get to the back of that land and can easily find 2 acres to farm. It doesn't cost a lot. We don't need 20 acres. And I'm sure, you know, people who do sustainable farming know this. We don't need 50 acres. In fact, 5 acres is ambitious, which is what we now have. But we've been farming on 1 acre for 4 years. And of course, there will be need to expand. But I'm saying that my point is, this land that we're asking for out of the 93,000 acres is not that we're asking people to give us 20 acres or even 5 acres. If somebody has 2, 3 acres, they can do a lot of magic.
Great, thank you. Daniel, I see your hand up. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. Tope, again, thank you so much for your dedication. around the access to capital, I think all of us are aware of the way Black farmers have historically been discriminated against when it comes to access to capital. But just how can the county really work with you? There's so many challenges, not only you, but many are facing. Is it financing of equipment, or is it just working capital that you're having challenges accessing?
Yeah, so it's both, and I think the county can work with us in doing both. So let me give you an example. Last week we said we wanted to buy, because our landlord, again to Tom's point of making the place pretty, our landlord gave us 4 extra acres for free. Now that we need to mow the grass in the portion where we haven't gotten to yet, and so we don't have a mower that can do that extent of work. And so I sent a message to the Office of Ag in Montgomery County, and they sent a message to Mabitco, and their response was, no, we don't fund equipment. So they said, if you can implement that, you can attach to that tractor, and you can use that, you can use that mowing implement to do what you need to do. Now, for me, this means that it's a crime now, an additional crime to be small. Because if I don't have a tractor, we haven't bought a tractor, we are still trying to finance a tractor, which the county Office of Ag and Mabitco does not fund. So if we cannot get equipment financing from the farm credit, or from Mabitco, or from anywhere else, where do we get this from? So I think that there needs to be a little bit more flexibility in terms of in the areas of what is being funded, what can be funded. Again, I want to go back to what MANA did last year and the year before. They didn't put too many rigid things around what we needed the money for. All they wanted to know was, if we're going to give you this amount of money, what can you do with it? So as long as it makes sense to your operations, they gave us that money for free. So again, I want to see this happen on the county level and on Mabitco level. Give us low-cost funds. The Latino Economic Development Center, which I do some financial work for, they give 0% loans to restaurants in Ward 7, Ward 8, and some other areas, especially those that are owned by Latinos. Why isn't this something that Montgomery County or Mabitco is able to do for farmers of color, or even all farmers, because all of us are suffering?
So I think we need to talk, because I believe the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation is now a fund manager. So we need to talk in terms of the casino funds that have been collected here in Maryland. So we need to talk and see how, what type of, the county has a racial equity and social justice policy, right? So I agree with you. You're one of few minority businesses and also farmers in the county. Besides that, you also farm in the East County, so which in some areas lack fresh food. So let's really talk and see if we can, work with the EDC on how really identify this opportunity, because it is an opportunity. If they fund, it could be equipment or it could be working capital that gives you the capacity to hire more people, but also the tools you need to be more productive. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tope, for being here with us. And this is a really great conversation, and we hope to continue to just provide a space to talk about these very important things. I'm going to drop your website in the chat, so if anyone would like to learn more about Dodo Farms, please feel free to support there. And we are going to transition, just because of time's sake, we're going to transition to Tanya. So Tanya is she represents Passion to Seed Gardening, and she's going to share a little bit more about just who she is, her business, and just how she got started, and we're excited to have her here. So I will be sharing my screen with her slides. And so give me 1 second. Let's see.
I need to apologize to Tanya for leaving the call. I've got some visitors coming to the farm today, so, but I'm very interested. I'll follow the recording.
Great. Thank you, Tom, for being here.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Tanya, are you able to see the screen? Oh, do you mind unmuting yourself? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Esther, and thank you for everybody on this platform listening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just share what's going on at Passion to Seed Gardening. First of all, if just a little background, I started farming, or rather gardening, with Montgomery County Community Garden here in Germantown. And once I found that interesting, and people that I was sharing my produce with were really excited about the taste compared to what they get from the grocery store, that gave me an opportunity to expand my gardening for business. With the help of Office of Agriculture and Montgomery Countryside Alliance, through their coordination in partnering us with a landowner, I was lucky enough to be partnered with a landowner in Gaithersburg, close to Damascus, Laytonsville area, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. So I've been farming there since spring of 2015. And our relationship with the landowner has grown to more than just business related. It's like extended family partnership that I have, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But besides doing farming, I also work for a organization, IT organization in Baltimore. I'm also a mother of 2 boys grown up. I'm also a caregiver to my husband, who had stroke in 2009. So most people ask me, how do you manage doing all these, doing farming and everything else? But I'm thankful that I've found this opportunity to do farming, because it doesn't feel like work for me. It's the passion that I have in it that carries out the workload out of it. So every time I come back home after doing some gardening, I feel more energized. So I call it my part-time gym membership. So I just wanted to share that with you a little bit. But first and foremost, thank you, Tope, for highlighting some of the challenges that we get here in Montgomery County, the challenges in the LLC that you mentioned, labor, land, and capital. It's very real. And for me personally, when I talk to the landowners, unfortunately, the father passed away in February this year. So the twin daughters are now the current landowners. They have lease for farmers who do commodity crops, and they are very, I guess, progressive in terms of supporting the farmers, because I'm the small scale farmer on the side, using about maybe 2 or 3 acres, and the commodity farmers, they use most of the land. But I joked with them and say, if I could just have a little place where I can build like a 2-room house where I can just be there maybe weekends, because the time that I spend traveling, commuting from my place to the farm, is about 30 minutes one way. So I lose an hour in, time that I could be productive on the farm. So I'm always joking with them because they have, I think, a right to build like 3 homes on their piece of land. So I'm just saying this to highlight what Tope was, enunciating in her presentation, that the challenges are real, and if we could get, access to some of these 3 categories Tope mentioned, LLC, I think that would enhance and also motivate farmers to be more productive than we currently are. But besides everything, I would like to share some of the slides I have and highlight the help, or rather the assistance that Manna Food, Montgomery Food Council have played a role in helping us in getting access to some of the equipment, the infrastructure that I did at the farm. So you can start, Esther, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, some of the pictures are they're not professional, but I just wanted to be able to highlight what I'm doing with some of the assistance that we're getting from Office of Agriculture. So in this picture, this is the wood chips. I use the wood chips to do the weed management. So what I'm doing is putting the cardboard on the ground and then put the wood chips on top. And this has helped me to maintain the weeds during the height of summer, height of spring, when the weeds can take over the field. So kudos to Office of Agriculture in facilitating this. It really makes a difference in the way we manage our the places that we're farming at. You can go on to the next. Oh, sorry. This is wood chips and fencing in one. So about when I started in 2015, I had the grant for about 3,000 that was given to us through the New Farmer Project. So I had the fence put in, but after some time through wear and tear, the fence was sort of breaking apart. So the deer was coming in and destroying all the crops. Last year, but one, it was just a total disaster because my main crop that I grow is corn. And the type of corn is the type of corn that you find, it's called dent corn. And so many people from Africa and other regions, they like that type of corn. So that's my main crop that I grow during spring and harvest it in early fall or late fall. So I had total loss that year, about 1.5 years ago. So through the Manna Food Farm to Food Bank program and the grants that they gave us, I was able to put up a new fencing, and that was a real progress. And thanks to that program that they initiated. So this is showing the fencing as well as the wood chips that I use for the pavements. You can go on to the next one. Thank you. So this is the grant that I got last year. I needed a small shelter to put my equipment in, like the little tiller and stuff like that. So I had my son set up this for me. I got it, I think Costco was selling it beginning of spring. So it really makes a difference. I don't have to labor putting in equipment back in the greenhouse and all that stuff. So I'm sort of making it my little heaven place. When I'm tired, I just pull up the umbrella and sit in there and just relax a little bit. But that shed you see there is through the program for the funds that I got last year. I got last year or early this year. So thank you for that help. It really makes a difference. You can go on to the next one. Sorry, yeah. So this is the wood chips that I'm using, part of the area that I use when I have people coming to pick up corn, say in August, September, thereabouts. I have quite a number of people coming to the farm. So sometimes people just like step anywhere. So I'm trying to make defined pathways where people can, walk safely and maintain the environment that I would like to have at PTSG. The next one, thank you. Over there, that's last year. I was so happy to be participating in the Farm to Food Bank. And I had a lot of Swiss chard that I was, that Mana Food was picking up. And that's my goal again this year. I think this program is just a heaven sent for us farmers, because I think from picking up from what Tom and Tope was saying, this has elevated the our status as farmers in the county. And I think the pandemic also gave us that opportunity that, we are just not farming for farming. We are farming to feed the county and beyond. So given the opportunity that we have with Farm to Food Bank and through their participation, I think they have elevated our position and our commitment to farming in the county to a certain level that maybe other people didn't have any idea that, these small scale farmers are putting in an effort to, to help people or to feed the county people that would not necessarily be able to afford the quality and type of produce that we grow. So I think working through this participation and working through this coordination with Mana Food, I think it will go a long way in making an impact to the policymakers that this is serious business, that small scale farmers, even through all the challenges that we go through, but because of our passion, I think that passion really needs to be fed to the highest level and make an impact that can benefit everybody in the county and everybody who's willing to participate in helping us to move further in our production. Thank you. The next one. So I was mentioning about the corn. We call it maize from where I am, from Zimbabwe. But yeah, this is the corn that I grow, and people love it. And they either steam it or roast it. And it's a different type of corn. It's not that sweet corn, or the kernels are quite big and enjoyable. It's a meal on its own when you eat it. The next one, thank you. This is just a sample of some of the very produce that I grow, and it's very popular with that type of clientele that I serve. You see the pumpkin leaves I have there, the corn, the tomatoes. Last year I did quite a lot of tomatoes. So just a sample of the pumpkin leaves and the corn and the tomatoes. People really like the pumpkin leaves. So that's a very popular produce that I grow. We use it as a type of vegetable, very, very nutritious in terms of what you in terms of the taste as well as the nutrition aspects of it as they portray it on the internet. So the next one. This is the current situation at the farm. That's the area that I expanded to be able to put, actually this is inside the greenhouse. I'm still in the process of trying to set up irrigation. I got a grant for irrigation when I started farming, but just haven't been able to set up the irrigation inside the greenhouse. But it's one of those things where now you have the landowner who's not willing to, to have me set up a well that I can source water from. So currently I source water from the main water supply from the landowner. But we've been talking about it, and last year I had an issue where the water froze, and that caused a problem. So I'm glad to report that because of that problem we had, they are now willing for me to do a separate well where I can have irrigation water coming in. So it's one of those problems that you encounter in terms of infrastructure. And coming to Tope's presentation again, where the equipment is really of importance, because right now, since I wasn't here last week, I'm even afraid to go there right now because the weeds and everything are just up. I can't use the mower that I have, the lawn mower, because it needs an extra heavy use type of equipment for me to mow. So it's one of those challenges that you get as a up and coming, growing farmer in the county. But this is some vegetables that I have in the greenhouse. They look so slimmed down because I had just picked up over 30 pounds that I delivered to Mana Food before I left last Thursday. So the next one, thank you. Oh, okay. I guess that's the last. Okay, well, yeah, that's about all that I had to share. But reason for these pictures was just to highlight the benefits from this Manna to Food Bank program, and also the Office of Agriculture, Montgomery Countryside Alliance. I think all these organizations and some others I might not have mentioned, they see what our passions are, and they are trying the best that they can. But I think, especially with these upcoming elections within the county and state level, I think we have an opportunity to be able to participate or advocate for small-scale farmers within the county, and have those policymakers have that in mind, that this is a real business that we are passionate about, and we are here to make a difference. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, for your presentations, and the pictures are great. So I was so curious about the pumpkin leaves, and I didn't know that they were so nutritious, and that you can, and that also helps with, for someone that doesn't know, you would just, at least for me, I would, if I was growing that, I wouldn't think to use the pumpkin leaves, but that's so awesome that you can use that and reduce that waste of getting rid of the leaves if you don't know about it. So
yeah, yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the pumpkin leaves as well as the pumpkins, but I grow the pumpkins as mainly for the leaves, and people like that. People come and buy them in bags and bags of, in terms of the amount that they're buying. So it's really a very nutritious and very popular type of vegetable, especially with people with African origin. Yeah.
Amazing. So Tanya, where do you see passion to seed gardening in the next few years? What are some hopes, dreams?
My hopes and dreams are that the Farm to Food Bank program be replicated in many ways. And the reason why I'm saying that, advocating for that, is for me personally, this is a one woman, one person encounter or business that I have with Passion to Seed Gardening. I don't have the capacity to be at the markets. I would love to be at the markets because I love getting to know people, interacting with them. And I think there's something that lacks when you just being on the farm and not going into a market where you're interacting with people. So having the platform like a Farm to Food Bank program replicated in many ways, that would offer me a platform where I'm just concentrating on growing. And so thankful to the volunteers who come and pick this up, because for me, it's just going to the farm, having the stuff ready, and the volunteers come and pick it up. So that really moves the produce that I'm planting and I'm growing. So that would be a plus for me if we have those programs replicated and be able to successfully sell the produce. I know I would be making a lot more if I go on site at the farm, but if I have most of the produce instead of rotting at the farm and be able to be sold through these different platforms, that would be a really great help for me to have that in place.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Tanya. And Massa has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do, Tanya. I'm always so impressed with the variety of things that you grow on your farm, and obviously you grow a number of things that can't be found elsewhere. And I'm just wondering, like, how do you get the word out that you sell pumpkin leaves and you sell, the specific type of corn that you sell? Is it sort of word of mouth, or do you have kind of networks that you share this information with?
I use the platforms, the social media platforms, as well as my website. Recently, my son put an inquiry form on the website. So if anybody is interested, they go onto the website and they they fill in the inquiry form. I get an email and respond to them that way. But mostly it's through the social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook, and also word of mouth. Word of mouth has been a great success in people just saying, oh, there's a farmer over there in Gaithersburg who does pumpkin leaves. And by word of mouth, people just get to know me. So that has worked really well. Yeah.
Great. And then Lorianne had her hand up. So go ahead, Lorianne.
Sure. And Tanya, I was just wondering, sort of continuing that conversation about just land use and land access, I was wondering if you could elaborate a little more about sort of how you came to lease your land and I know you mentioned, sometimes you have to talk to the landlord about things like when you want to put up the greenhouse and how that normally goes.
Oh, yeah. So when I started in 2015, they had a program called New Farmer Project. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I might have been the last one. So through just asking, because a friend of mine, and I usually like to tell the story, I would always tell her, say, oh, I wish I could, get some farm. Or when I go back home, when I retire, hopefully, when I go back home, I would like to start farming and stuff like that. And she would always say, Tanya, you don't have to wait until you go back to Zimbabwe to do farming. If you ever sort of inquired around here in Montgomery County about farming land. So one day she said that to me, and I think the light bulb just lit in my head, and I started just cold calling. I called Caroline Taylor with MCA after having been given her contact number. So Caroline continued to follow up with me. And then that's how I found out about the New Farmer Project. And through the New Farmer Project, I was able to attend some classes. It was mandatory that you do, so that at least you know what you're getting into. Because most people, when you talk about, I want to do farming, it's when you get to do the real hard, dirty work, it's something else. It's another story. So I was able to attend classes. I think I did 5 sessions of those classes. And after that, they gave us a $3,000 grant. Out of that $3,000 grant, you'd choose what you want to pay in terms of equipment and infrastructure, whatever. So that's how I got, so through the Office of Agriculture, and I think Sarah Miller was working for another section of that deals with agriculture. She was able to help me connect with this landowner. And at first, I was saying to Sarah when we initially visited the farm, oh, this is too far. But I think 30 minutes at that time looked like too much for me, which it doesn't not right now. So I was glad to be connected with them through that program. Initially, I had been connected with another farmer in Olney, but unfortunately, when I planted the corn, before it even came out, nothing came out of that field because there were geese across the pond. So they would come and pick up the corn. So at that point, I just decided there's no way I'm gonna continue at this. And that's how they connected me with the landowner in Gaithersburg, where I'm still at. Mm.
And is it a long-term lease or is it a year? Or?
It's a 5-year lease. We renew it every 5 years. Yeah, we renew it every 5 years. So I was just talking to one of the girls since the father passed away. And so every 5 years we renew them. But it's one of those challenges too, when you renew the lease and they want to raise the lease fee. And I think what I mentioned to them is there has to be a cap, because what I'm producing, and when you take into account what I'm paying for the lease, sometimes, you just equalize everything, but there has to be a cap in terms of the lease fees. And I think they also took that into consideration. But it is a challenge when you don't own the land and you're just relying on the landowner for everything. So it's a challenge. I mean, I'm just emphasizing from Tape's presentation in as far as that, but it's it's because the passion is in here that I want to do this. But you have those challenges and you learn to travel through each and every challenge on a daily basis. But you tell yourself, if there were 1, 2, 3, 4 things, I could be doing, more than what I'm currently doing. So, yeah, I think it's a good homework and challenge for policymakers within the county. And my wish and desire is if that could be elevated to the highest levels of policymakers within the county and state level as well.
Great, thank you, Tanya. Do we have any other questions for Tanya before we move on? No? Okay, great. Again, thank you so much to Tanya and Tope for their wonderful presentations and being here and just getting to hear just your thoughts and your experiences. It's been really great to have you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if everyone could hang on, we will move on to the next portion of the meeting, and the final portion, it'll be, the Food and Beverage Participant Expo survey, and Lorianne will share more about that.
All right, well, great. Well, thanks, Esther. Thank you, Tope. Thank you, Tanya, and everybody who commented. I would just like to say that this is a seriously hard toggle for me, since, I know I and many people on this call care so deeply about land use and access. So I just want to take a few minutes really quickly here at the end to discuss our upcoming Montgomery County Food and Beverage Expo. Let's see. And I just have a few slides just for sort of more or less for fun visuals. So we have coming up, hopefully to help businesses like Tope and Tanya and all the other MoCo Made businesses. We have coming up our 2022 MoCo Made Food and Beverage Expo. So just really quickly, so if for those of you who didn't see the outreach materials that we sent out about a week ago, we are the expo is July 28th. It is at the Silver Spring building. It is in the afternoon, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we are inviting procurement professionals. So that's buyers, that's local food retailers, local food wholesalers. And they will come and sample the newest and established products from producers and business owners of our MoCo Made businesses. We also are inviting organizations where that's on an invitation basis. So we're inviting our partner organizations to promote their work to local food community expos. And we are inviting sort of the general public. So local food and beverage professionals and enthusiasts, and those who have an industry interest in the MoCo Made program and the MoCo Made local food and beverage economy. Excuse me. Actually, like Tope was saying, she's getting over a cold. I'm also getting over a cold. So pardon me. And just wanted to point out a few things about this. This is a benefit of the MoCo Made program. In other words, the businesses that are tabling and providing samples and educational opportunities about their products at the expo, they are coming to network and promote their products. But it's open to MoCo Made businesses only. But in 2022, for the rest of 2022, registration, if you're a first-time registrant as a MoCo Made business, is free and easy. So hopefully you can follow some links that are in the promotional materials for the Food and Beverage Expo to register if you're not registered. We hope you do if you're not registered. And the very first hour of the expo is going to be a buyer only hour. So it's going to be 11 to 12, which will be just so we're going to know that, so that when we invite the buyers, and we already have a number registered, the procurement professionals know that they have exclusive access to the MoCo Made businesses the very first hour. And that the folks at the MoCo Made businesses themselves know that the crowd they are giving samples to and talking to are in fact actual buyers. So so that's the first hour. And let's see, yes, and this is a fun new development, is that the MoCo Made businesses that are participating in the Food and Beverage Expo, it's very exciting, and Esther provided some information at the very beginning of this call. They're receiving free participation in pitch training led by Jennifer Underwood, an industry expert. And we're doing training and then follow-up practice sessions in advance of the expo. And the businesses will be able to develop actual promotional materials to market their business-ready products or their products to the retail and wholesale establishments. And of course, we're going to have streamlined networking opportunities for buyers at the expo. Excuse me. We have received some feedback that we'd like to share with you all in advance of soliciting your feedback. So our feedback is that we are that customer outreach and marketing that the buyers present at the expo would like to see customer outreach and marketing services demoed. We are working on this. We're inviting some of our local companies that provide those kinds of services to local food retailers and wholesalers, that the businesses have market ready products, that they will have a master list of, we'll be sharing a master list of contact information to share between the buyers and businesses, not the general public, but between buyers and the businesses tabling at the event. And of course, we're having a special networking section at the expo. So a special, place for meeting with folks and working out some of the details of your products and selling it to retailers and wholesalers. And fun things like different colored badges to ensure that you can identify who's a buyer and who's a member of the general public. We have received some limited feedback, but we'd like to ask for your feedback. And so I know in interest of time, I would ask that Esther is going to go ahead and drop the link to the Expo feedback survey into the chat. If you all can just go ahead and open the survey, that would be just as a sort of we ask you to please, we're sort of like begging for feedback for the Expo year, and complete it at your leisure. That would be fabulous. So we don't ask you to it would take a few minutes, just complete it at your leisure. It would be great if folks on this call could, I would ask you personally to please, it would be great if you filled out just sometime today, and we can get more opinions on things, just things you'd like to see at the expo and ways we can develop it towards the interests of our MoCo, local food and beverage community. And like to see you there. It's going to be a really fun event. It's going to be an extremely useful event for everybody present, I think. And we're going to try our darndest to make it useful for everyone. And your feedback will hopefully be one step towards making it as useful as possible. So does anybody have any comments or questions at this time about the expo?